Do you already have this phone stand for your Passap? If you want to learn more about it, you can check the video in the description. I got the idea to make it from Pat Wilson, and today I will show you how to knit this cute Easter chick, which is also one of Pat's creations. Also, if you stay until the end of the video, you will learn all of my secrets for making a perfect single bed caston. Now, without further delay, let's get to the video. First, make sure the racking handle is in its lowest position. Now raise 26 needles on the front bed of the machine, 13 to the left and 13 to the right side of the center. Place the edge springs on the last working needles and make sure the latches are closed. Now arrange the needles in a 1-to-1 division and move the edge spring on the last working needle. According to the manual, I have to put the second needle on the left out of work, but for me it works better to start from the leftmost one. Set the front lock to N and the stitch size to 1. The back lock must be set to GX. Now insert the black strippers. Here comes my second secret. Since my strippers are old and the previous owner has filed the sides of the blades, I have found that the machine knits better when they are inserted in the same way every time. I have made a small dot to mark the leftmost stripper, and I always insert it in the left slot so the dot is always pointing to the back of the machine. The plastic on the blades can be replaced by using silicone tubing, but I will show you this in a different video. After you insert the strippers, take the main yarn for the project. Now knit the first row. It should look like this. There should be yarn in the hooks of all working needles. The main stitch size I will use is 5, so for the second row I will set the dial to 4. Now raise the rest of the needles on the front bed, then move the edge spring on the last working one. Take the orange ruler and gently tap on the feet of the needles to tighten the yarn. It's time for the next secret. To knit the second row, I will use the orange tool. Now pay close attention to the yarn and the needles and knit one row as shown in the video. Stop right when the yarn starts to go up and use the orange tool to bring it down. The yarn from every previous row must stay behind the latches to be knitted on the next row, and this is the main function of the strippers. They must push the stitches that have already been knitted downwards. Don't stick the tool too far inside. Just bring the yarn down and slightly move the lock. Now it should look like this. As you can see, the caston is perfect, but we are not done yet. First, reset the row counter. Now increase the stitch size on the front lock to the main stitch size. Take the orange ruler and gently tap on the feet of the needles to tighten the yarn. Now knit 8 rows. You must knit the first 4 rows very slowly and carefully. Pay attention at the beginning and the end of the knitting. In most cases, these are the places where the machine will have the most difficulties when knitting the first few rows. You may need to use the orange tool for the first 4 rows. Keep in mind that all yarns are different, so as you have already seen in the videos, I am not using this technique every time. For this demonstration, I chose to use 2 strands of thin acrylic yarn because I know that sometimes this yarn needs a bit of help on the first rows. When using a thicker yarn, it will be easier for the blades of the strippers to push the first rows down. But this may not be true depending on the condition of the blades of your strippers. Also, when using more than one strand of yarn, twisting the yarn while winding it or manually twisting only the beginning will help the strands to stay together in the hooks of the needles. I hope you will be able to see how the yarn is not being pushed down by the strippers. Don't forget to tap on the feet of the needles after each row. The tapping should be done very gently. Almost no force is involved. If you use too much force, the needles will go below their working position, the edge of the knitting will be pulled up above the blades of the strippers, and we don't want this to happen. Now you can see the second row of the knitting. The process is very easy and simple, and the hardest thing is only to show you the yarn and the needles up close in the video. Now I will tap on the feet of the needles again, and the third row will be the first one where the machine can knit without me helping it. I will knit the fourth row slowly, then I will continue knitting until the row counter is at 8 rows. Please don't forget to support me by liking the video and leaving me a comment below. This technique can also be used when making a tubular caston. You just have to push the yarn on the back bed down when you move the lock from left to right. Now you can reset the row counter. Use the single prong tool and decrease 1 stitch on either side of the knitting. Put the empty needles out of work, then move the edge springs to the last working ones. Now knit 1 row. Now decrease 1 stitch on either side again. You have to repeat these steps until the row counter is at 6 rows and the lock is on the right side of the machine. You may already know what the equation for the decreases will look like, but if you are a beginner, you can try to pause the video and figure it out. Then after a few seconds it will appear on the screen so you can check if you got it right. You have to decrease 1 stitch every row a total of 6 times, so this equation will be the right one for each side of the knitting. In other words, you will decrease 6 stitches on each side, or a total of 12 stitches. On the 6th row, the lock must be on the right side of the knitting and you must have a total of 14 working needles left on the front bed. Did you come up with a different equation? If so, don't be shy and share it in the comments below. Now you can reset the row counter. Knit 7 rows without changing the settings on the locks. The lock must be on the left side of the machine. Start from the leftmost stitch and transfer the stitches in a 1-to-1 division using the single prong tool. After you transfer the stitches, put the empty needles out of working position. Now knit the last row. Pull the yarn from the eyelet, wrap it around the annex lever and cut it. Thread the yarn in the double-eye bodkin tool and sew off the stitches from right to left. When you sew off all the stitches, the knitting will fall off the machine. Now you can see the caston up close. The piece is very small, but the caston is perfect. To make the cheek, you have to pull the cast-off tail to gather the top part, then sew the sides using the yarn tail. Finally, you can use some waste yarn to fill the body, make the eyes and the beak, and pull the cast-on tail to gather the bottom. When you sew up the body, it will look like this. And instead of showing you my version, you can once again see the beautiful photo that Pat Wilson sent me. That's all for today. Have a nice day and see you in my next video. Okay, this is my version, but the cheek Pat made looks much better.